25 years ago, the Dayton Peace Agreement brought an end to the horrible war in Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, and created a new country, Bosnia-Herzegovina, consisting out of two entities, the Republika Srpska of the Serb entity and the Federation of the Bosniaks and the Croats. Still, in this country, ethnic divisions and ethnic criteria play a big role, a too big role, because many issues the country has, like many others, of course, like the environmental issue, the social issue, the employment questions, are far from being solved. The younger generation thinks differently. The younger generation thinks about these issues, which are important for their life, and which should be solved or nearly solved in order to create new opportunities for the young people also to stay in the country. We asked several of these young people to give their opinion. We asked people in Bosnia-Herzegovina, but also in Vienna, coming from the country, what their issues is, what their ideas and opinions for the future is. And we will also have in the coming weeks some 2 panel discussions in order to discuss the future of the country, because the future of Bosnia-Herzegovina is very important also for the future of the whole Western Balkan.
My name is Emina Bosnjak. I'm the Executive Director of Sarajevo Open Center, a human rights nonprofit organization working on gender equality and LGBTIQ human rights. In 2019, Sarajevo and Bosnia and Herzegovina had their first Pride March. It actually took us so many years when we compare to the start of organized LGBTI movement and activism here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and when we compare it to other countries in the region, for example, Serbia and Croatia, to use this format as a way to fight for the equality and acceptance of LGBTIQ people here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. But I think the way that Pride happened last year, it was a pinnacle and a triumph of our work for so many years, where we put our efforts into working directly with and for the LGBTI community, offering different kind of services such as psychosocial support, legal support, and legal representation. We did so much work with institutions. I think that we invested also very, very much energy into trying to build their capacities and their awareness and knowledge on the rights of lesbians, gays, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people. And we focused on our position here, how we as a community live here, what kind of rights we do not have yet, what kind of opportunities we do not have yet because of transphobia and homophobia. And the good thing was that our way of working, on the one side where we have the community and Sarajevo Open Center being their voice towards those who are making decisions, actually helped us to achieve so many things, to be recognized as a group that needs protection from discrimination and violence, and to have this being reflected in the laws and policies that were being adopted. But I think it's also the presence of the international community that certainly sped up certain processes, and I think helped attune our local decision makers to actually listen to the voices from the LGBTI community and from the organizations working on these issues, and help to put these issues on the agenda of our political life. But again, it boils down back to what the LGBTI community wants, how vocal it is, and how strong we are in requesting not just equality and access to certain freedom and rights, but also on insisting for better life for everyone here, for more inclusive and tolerant society. For many LGBTIQ people, having this protection from violence and discrimination enshrined in our legislation is not enough. LGBTI people are people who live in this country and also need to have some kind of hope in the future of this society and this country, need to have stable economical situation, and need to have faith that they can live dignified lives here. And that is not just a question of whether somebody is being protected from discrimination and violence. It's an issue of course, economic, social, and cultural environment that we are all living in. I think our institutions still have to recognize this fact, and to see the LGBTI community as their citizens, and to think about LGBTIQ people when making different policies and laws, and when taking action. And that's something I believe is still missing. There needs to be more awareness and proactivity on their side to not just rely on always having the protesting voices coming from the community and then institutions picking up on certain issues, but to kind of think about this community as well when making certain policies and laws, as I said, and in practice, of course, in the implementation of those laws and policies. The legislative situation is still not perfect for LGBTI people, although there's this kind of legislation that gives us at least a chance to hope for physical integrity and integrity of our lives. We still are missing legislation that would provide some kind of legal security for same-sex partners, which currently there is none. And currently, and always, we had same-sex partners living in our country. So it's a question of how do people feel secure again in sharing their emotional and private lives to be protected by certain laws. There's still a lot of legal gaps in terms of legal gender recognition. Transgender people are not, I think, in any way protected by our institutions and by our legislation. So there's a lot of work to be done here in terms of also self-identification to ensure that people can actually choose their gender without being medicalized. And this is a process that is ongoing in other countries in the region as well. So it's I think it's a more wider and global issue currently, but still it needs to happen for transgender people here. And I think a lot of other areas that we do not really think when we think about rights and opportunities need to be worked with. We really need to create a more inviting and accepting atmosphere for LGBTI people, and that means working within different actors in the education, even within organized religion, which gives important messages about acceptance or hopefully about acceptance. We need to do so much work within the business sector. How are LGBT people perceived within the business sector? What opportunities do they have? I think there's a lot more work to be done in these areas, because this is when we really get down to business, as they would say, and when we get to the core question of how LGBTI people are going about their daily lives. And this is the question of employment, this is a question of their families, this is a question of how we live in the society. So still much work to be done, and the institutions can take part in this. Of course, they can enable these things happening much faster, easier, but I think there's a long way ahead of us in this sense.